Good morning, and I always say this, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I know that there are two gentlemen who I'm looking at right now, where they are in the world. I know Phoebe Francis is in Dubai. Hi there, Phoebe.
Greetings to all. All well. Great to be with you, Graham and Mohammed.
And Mohammed, I know the part of the world that he is in is Bahrain.
Hi, Phoebe. Hi, Graham. Good to be back here again.
Yeah, it's good to be back together, the three of us, because when we are three, we share, we learn from each other, I hope, and we help others to learn as well. So today, let's talk about one of the most important areas of the research that's been done for the Leadership Challenge over the years. It began well over 40 years ago. One of the areas that the leaders who were doing the research, Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner, focused on at one point was, what is it that people want in their leaders? What do they really admire in their leaders? Oh, I admire the fact that he is always well dressed. No, no, no. We're talking here about what we call the characteristics of admired leaders. So let's define firstly characteristic, the word characteristic. So, Mohammed, what does a characteristic mean for you?
For me, characteristic is something that is beneath the surface, that is, it shows itself in different behaviors, but it's not something you dress as per se, as you said, or you put on because it is you and it is something that shows in your behavior, which is the outside part. So usually characteristic is something that you hold always. What you show outside of behaviors and words reflects how intense and strong that characteristic is.
Phoebe, do you agree with that? It's a broad description of character.
I think I just want to add one more aspect in my perspective. It is like the feature which we doesn't see, but that feature is on which most of the actions happen from the individual side. So I try to connect it with the individual values too in this process.
Yeah. Okay, good. So, what are the characteristics of admired leaders? What is the number one characteristic as returned in all the research? This is the one that's number one that people say, this is what we want. This is a characteristic that we want in our leader. What is that?
Honesty.
Honesty. Right on. So let's identify the top four characteristics of admired leaders, and then let's drill down in and explore each of them. Does that sound okay?
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, what are the other three characteristics of admired leaders?
One is forward looking.
Yeah. What is number two? What is number two?
I think competence.
Uh, honest, inspiring, competent, forward-looking.
Yeah.
So, we want our leader to be honest. What is honesty?
To be honest, uh, yeah, but I would rather ask first before we define. Why do honesty sit at the top of this? Why people everywhere, despite their walks of life, the fields they work in, and their ethnicities, their caste and creed, this characteristic honesty sits at the top for 40 years. That what Jim Kouzes actually shared is that it sits at the top for 40 years unprepared to move. So why, what makes people want honest leaders? Before we, I mean, unpack what honesty is this, I'm really curious.
Great question. Because look at it more. Say, would we really like this person if we knew that he was dishonest? But
Yeah.
yeah, what's your rationale for this?
I think honesty is strongly tied to values and ethics.
Yeah, yeah,
And people admire when someone stand for that values and ethics. Again, it is something which I think is based on the principles that person holds.
So if we say that honesty is number one, what else flows or comes from knowing that or believing that that person is honest? If we know that this person demonstrates honesty at all times, what is another aspect that we can see in this person, or how is it going to affect our relationship?
That's very deep. Please continue.
Okay.
Continue, Graham. Continue.
Honest.
I have a perspective here, which to the question, Graham. Maybe because I see honesty, I have a feeling of I can trust this person.
Where I was headed. If this person is honest, I can trust him or her.
Or her, yeah.
We know how important trust is in the relationships that we have with people. We inherently want to be able to trust another person, and we want to trust our leader. And that trust is not just the way they deal with money, honesty is such a strong characteristic that we really put that number one. I want the person to be honest.
I also have a view, if I may, Graham. I think honesty takes the majority of our attention and our admiration in the meantime, is that it, unlike inspiring and competence, it's not circumstantial. Actually, there isn't a part of our life that doesn't demand honesty. I am here with my family. I speak to my children. I expect honesty, and they do the same. I speak with my wife. He speaks to me. I don't know how the level of honesty there. Okay, let's leave that one side. Okay. Then I go to the grocery. I expect honesty. He does. Everywhere we go, you cannot remove honesty in every sign you see, every rule you follow, and every person you interact with. Similarly, the leader has no speck or an iota of his interaction with his team that honesty cannot be there. You can't just remove honesty. It's in every move, every nuance, everywhere. But inspiring, it takes some circumstances to show how inspiring you are. Competence has its places. Honesty, it's all over, everywhere. I think that's why people are very admiring to honesty and very critical on that.
So how do we define honesty? It's the first one. It's the one. We all want our leader to be honest. So let's get a bit more of a perspective on what they have to do to demonstrate and validate that they have honesty as a characteristic.
For me, whether he or she is that person truthful?
Yep.
Is that person ethical? Is that person principled in and treating people fairly? These all comes into play when I look into, okay, is that person, he or she is a honest person or not?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I certainly agree with the first one you mentioned about honesty. Treating people fairly, I don't know that we'd put that necessarily as a honest characteristic. It comes into it. I agree, but honesty is, well, Muhammad,
I'm thinking honesty can go as far as keeping your word. For example, your manager, your leader promises you that I'll give you this project. Just hang on there, okay? This I'll let you lead the project, all right? And then the project comes. I'm not the leader. I'm not even in the project. Okay, I understand things can happen, and the leader has to go to a different direction. But for him or her not to bring me in the office and discuss with me why I excluded you from this to explain to me and just act like I didn't even promise you, we didn't have the conversation at all, just because I can, because I am unquestionable. I think that also goes into honesty, because you said something, you didn't fulfill it. You didn't lie when you said it. You were not a liar. But to me, you're not honest. To me, it can go that far.
Explore that a little bit further. In the process, you said he or she has said to you, "I want you to lead this project," or whatever, and you believe that that's the way it's going to go, right? What happens if you hear from somebody else that the leader who has told you this has appointed or talks, at least talks to someone else about this? What do
Yeah.
you, is that
Yes.
honest? Is that honest? No,
And you lose trust, which is the
absolutely. Because he's been dishonest either to you or to the other person in talking to each of you about a particular situation. That is, one or other is going to lead the team, whatever it was. And when he's not honest with both people, he breaks trust, of course. And if we are,
so
we want to,
whoever he is hearing us now, we just want to make the point that people can interpret honesty on anything that does not go with what was agreed, expected. So leaders might have to be very open and conscious to be clearly communicating everything and transparent, so that they don't lose the trust, even if they had to change their mind, change course, change people. At least you can be trustworthy
yeah,
in that regard.
deal with this one for more time than I come to 50. So if, as you just said, there has been a need to change the person, he said to you, "I want you to lead the team." That was the example you set up. And then he has a need to change that decision, and he considers somebody else. He should do what first? He should come to you and say, "Mohammed, remember I promised this to you." I said, "This is what, unfortunately, we can't continue along with, I need to appoint someone else for this reason."
Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful.
So is he being honest? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Baby.
Yeah, I think this resonate with the first, first practice, the modeling the way, and connecting it with do what you say you will do, making you equal to honest. So do what you say you will do. That has to be uh, there in the mind of the person all the time. Am I doing what I have said I will do? And it can also have linkage effect in inspiring people. The second practice of the leadership challenge, inspiring a shared vision, because I'm honest. As Graham mentioned, if I identified someone first, but due to circumstances which have changed, I have decided, but you are coming and conveying that to the first person before taking the next action, showing honesty in practice.
So when you show honesty as you've described, and I really like your connection to the next one, which is inspiring, because I think you challenge this if you feel I'm wrong, but I think that if that leader came to me and said, "Graham, unfortunately, the circumstances have changed. I know that I promised this to you. It can't be in place because of this and this and this. But I really want..." So the way he or she's handling this point is seen or can be seen as what? Number two, inspiring
Yeah.
because of the way they handle this. They've had to change their mind. They've had to change the setup, but the way they handle it and the way they discuss it with you, they can be demonstrating that they are inspiring. So why, that's the second practice, sorry, the second characteristic. Why do you think people want their leader to be inspiring? And what sort of things do leaders do to become inspiring or to demonstrate that they're inspiring?
Interesting. Inspiring, whenever I share inspiring, and people have different circumstances, and they call all of them inspiring, maybe for the lack of a better word. But inspiring is the impact that happens on the receiver end, all right? So I am inspired by you. So, for example, in my case, I do public speaking a lot. And when we define a speaker who is inspiring, it doesn't mean he's inspiring to everyone in the room when he speaks. Some are inspired, some are not. It depends who has related exactly to that person, to the speaker. So if you are touching something in the people where they are inspired, then you connect and become inspiring. So a leader in that case, when he demonstrates a leadership that is inspiring to people, and they are urged, inspired to move on and do the same or be better, inspired to be better.
I want to pick up a point that you made when you referenced speaking. And so often professional speakers these days, and for many years, have described themselves in their promotion as I'm an inspirational speaker. And I never use that term about myself, because I figured if someone says inspiring, then I failed. It's about the way it's received. And people might say that I'm inspiring, but I would never claim that I'm an inspirational speaker. That is for the
Exactly.
to determine based on what they see of me. So the leader's not going to come in and say, well, I am an inspiring leader. The people who he leading, even if they don't use that word, will have a feeling of being inspired by what that person says or does. You know, I walk out of a meeting with that leader and say, oh, I was just so inspired by what he said. It's maybe later when you think about it, you think, he just always, the way he says things or does things and the way he connects, it's really inspiring. It's uplifting. Debbie, how do you feel about it?
Graham, I think as you mentioned, I see that chain reaction which happens. When I see the leader, he or she being honest, openly sharing the thoughts, it is actually inspiring, and I think that inspiration make us to the third practice, challenging the process. What can we do differently when the leader highlights or come with that question? So again, in our context, I see both of you, Graham and Mohammed, in a very honest way, sharing and doing do what you say, and that is inspiring, and that is also leading us to challenge the process each week as a group, trying different things. So I think that connection of honesty, the characteristic of admired leaders, is well connected with inspiration, well connected with challenging the process. And people get into the fourth practice of enabling to act in that moment when we see that.
Yeah, but people, I agree absolutely with what you're saying, but there are times when we might observe our leader in a meeting context or talking to others or solving a problem or helping others to solve, and we might just slightly think, that's inspiring. In other words, I am uplifted and admire what he's doing. I'm lifted by this, and I want to continue to be part of what he's trying to do. So, yeah, and I, years ago,
Often,
pleasure
yes,
was really inspiring, and you come out of meetings and go, wow, this is so good. I didn't use the word inspiring, I guess, but it was the feeling that I had about what he was doing. And I always wanted to be with him and climbing the mountain with him, because he did things that were out of the ordinary. Mohammed.
inspiring often is mixed with or mistaken for motivational. They are over, overlapped anyway. So if I'm inspired by you, I'd be motivated to do what, for example, all right? So I have a story that in one of our Toastmasters club, it's an organization we gather and in a club setting, and we speak, we lead, we organize, we motivate, and we learn and evaluate. So one of the members kept doing one thing every meeting. She, at the end of the meeting, picks the water bottles, it's plastic water bottles, and gathers them in a bag and takes them with her outside. I said, "Ma'am, you don't have to do this. The office boy will do it. He will throw." She says, "No, I'm not throwing them." After that happened after 2, 3 meetings. I didn't ask her, and she didn't say anything. She said, "No, I'm not throwing them up. I'm putting them away for recycling because plastics are should not be there." At that time, I only heard lots of videos, lecturers, and so many speeches about plastic separation, isolation, etc. But I never took any action. After seeing that lady, and she just said, responded to a question, "I'm separating them because I was inspired." Until today, it's been 8 years. I always separate plastics no matter what happens, all right? And not because of the answer, but because I put what she said along with everything she did for the past weeks, and I didn't understand. Then it made a change and transformation in me. I was inspired by her actions and words. So you can add honesty there, you can add inspiring there, and all.
First, you were inspired by her action, weren't you?
Yes.
Once
Yeah.
once she explained what it was, why she was doing it, once she
Yeah.
clarified,
Yeah.
I'm not helping to put it in the rubbish and saving the plastic and recycling it. And that behavior that she did consistently, it wasn't just she did it once, she did it consistently, had then you inspired and you changed your behavior as a result. Correct?
Yeah.
Correct. And if I may, I can add just one quote from John Quincy Adams. I think he was a former president of the United States. He said, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, be more, do more, then you are a leader."
Absolutely.
Period.
So this is about other people responding to our behavior that we are demonstrating. And that's what people do. We are watched as leaders. You are being observed, and people are responding to what you do and either amplifying that or not. Ivy,
Yeah, Mohammed, your story resonated. That action is actually enabling you to act,
yeah,
to
Yeah.
follow that guidance, and not only that, it is encouraging the heart to continuously do that even now, because of that simple act you have observed over a period, and that is the power of honest action, modeling the way in that space.
but that action, you thought, wow, shit. I think I'm going to say that this is. You probably thought, wow, she is doing this simple act of putting this plastic in a certain way. I can also do that, and I can also make a difference, right? Because you connected with what she had been doing, and you thought, wow, this is a good thing to be done, rather than just saying, oh, well, the world's full of plastic, why worry about it? But you thought, no, if she's making a difference, so can I. And you were inspired. Well done.
Very good.
Well done. Great example. We've got two more out of the four. So let us talk about the other two out of the top four. Gentlemen, share one or the other. I don't mind. Which is next? So we have, of course, honesty, inspiring.
Competent.
So what does competent mean?
I want to be competent to talk about competent. Wait. Uh,
When I'm flying in an airplane as a passenger, I want the pilot who's up the front to be competent. I want him to know
yes.
exactly what he's doing. I'd like him to be honest as well, I suppose. In this situation, his competence is critical. And if I'm having a surgeon perform complex surgery on me, even basic surgery, I want him to be competent. So competent is know the practical aspect of the work that you are doing, right? Now, having said that, if I was running years ago, by the way, when we moved up the corporate ladder or the working ladder, we started at one level, we moved up. We learned the roles of each person almost as we moved up the next level, so that we could do the things that people who are under this as part of our direct report line were doing. But that's not possible these days. It is simply not possible to be competent in every aspect of what a company requires business to be done. There's such a diverse range of skills that are needed to do things. Just because a CEO a company has a website, it doesn't mean that the CEO has got to be able to build a website, right? That's a simple example. But in the way he operates, what is competency? Define that for me.
Yeah, I was away in India last week and was having consultation with my doctor. I have seen him with my family members. So as a family doctor, I have seen his competency in action, the ability to understand, the ability to advise and give action points so that the good aspect of the person is kept at the heart of every decision. So that is how I see competency in this space.
Yeah. And Mohammed.
Yes, we usually define competency by experience plus qualifications. So you must be qualified, but also you have to be experienced. And under both these words, you can have lots of drop downs. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically an understanding of, and I guess also a willingness to learn about the requirements of various job functions. You haven't got to learn how to do each of them, but you've got to be seen to be competent and not someone who just.
But a competent leader, we are specifically talking about a competent leader. So the people admire a competent leader, their leader to be competent. So what does it mean that I want my leader to be competent? To what extent and in what terms? My leader hired me or he is employing me for the things I know better than him, and I can run this section, this segment better than him. He is not more competent than me in running this. And so where does it come as a competent leader? Does he have to know everything in his department and be masterful better than every team member? Can you guide us here?
Not at all. He does not. He engages people who are masterful. He engages people who know what they are doing. He is competent enough to be able to guide them through what's required and help them along. But he is going to listen to what they say, isn't he? This is about enable others to act. He's going to encourage them to be the best that they can be. He doesn't need to be able to fly the aeroplane. I'm using that analogy again. If he's going to run the airline company.
Yes, beautiful.
He needs to be a pilot. He doesn't need to be an engineer able to pull apart an A380 aircraft to be able to run the airline. He needs to have competency, skills in certain areas that people go, yep, he knows what he's doing. He doesn't need to be a specialist in those areas. Again, the analogy could be a surgeon in a hospital where the hospital president isn't a surgeon. He doesn't have to be a surgeon to be able to run the hospital, but he's competent in the things that he is doing in that role as the most senior leader there. Maybe comments. We're getting a bit short on this. Now we've got a little bit of time left to talk about the final one. Unless on competence.
Yeah, I think let us go to the final one for forward looking.
Forward looking. So what does forward looking mean?
The best analogy, of course, since we are in the leadership challenge, and there's so much that we learn from being in this aspect. So it's, I remember Jim Coos is also teaching this scenario, and also you, Graham. Okay, what if a leader comes in the room and says, "Hey, I'm your new leader. What do you want to know about him?" Okay, so many of us answered, of course, where does he come from, but also where is he taking us? So that was really, that struck with my mind. You don't want to work with someone who doesn't know or doesn't care where we are going. So forward looking is very powerful.
Caring about where we're going also relates to purpose. If we understand our purpose and we have a group who understands the purpose in what we are doing, then we want to be part of what that person is doing, and to go on the journey with them. So they're forward looking. They are seeing the possibilities of the future. They're seeing new things forward. They're seeing the top of the mountain. They're seeing how we can get up there. Forward looking, not just looking at tomorrow or in the present now, but forward looking, because we all want, despite what you might think, we all want to go forward on this journey of life. Bibby.
Yeah, you know how the person is, or he or she is going to navigate us. We know the term called VUCA: volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. And as a leader, where and how that person is helping us to navigate, to take us forward together. And that inspiration is also something critical and build credibility for that leader in taking the group as a whole.
We want our leaders to be the admired leaders. We've just talked about the 4 characteristics: honest, inspiring, competent, forward-looking. What does that also say to leaders at other levels? So we want our leader up here to, hey, well, this is what people are saying. These are the characteristics that they want. What should we then be doing? We should be emulating that, shouldn't we? We should be honest. We should be, keep going. We should be inspiring. We should be competent. We should
Competent.
be. Those are the things which the research
Yes.
always says are the top 4. Of course, there
Well
are
said.
like supportive. We want our leader to be ambitious. We want our leader to be, there are other characteristics, but those are the top 4. And I make this point really firmly that we as leaders in what we're doing should also emulate those characteristics. We should remember that people have said, that's what we want. They're the top 4. Okay. Mohammed.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well said.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I think I want to leave with 3 questions. You know, what do I stand for?
Yeah.
What do I believe in?
Yeah.
What am I passionate about?
Leaders should be articulating those very questions and answers to them. Gentlemen, I thank you. I hope the people who've been with us today have learned a little bit more about the things that we can do as leaders and be holding those 4 competencies as the top 4. We might talk about some of the other competencies because they still apply in another conversation like this. How about that, Mohammed?
Yes. So we covered, just to make a summary, we covered the top 4 characteristics of admired leaders, which is a research by the Leadership Challenge for more than 30 years. And that is honest. Leaders should be honest, inspiring, competent, forward-looking.
Can I just make this point also? The research has across the world, and in every country and every culture where the surveys are done, honesty is always number 1. Inspiring always number 2. Always. In every culture, in every country, those still are the top 2 characteristics of admired leaders. So this is why the Leadership Challenge is universal, correct?
Yes. Can I take your word for that? Of course, because you are honest.
I'll be honest with you. Isn't it interesting that in the English idiom, the way we talk sometimes, people will say, "Can I be honest with you? Have you been honest with me all this time?" Oh my gosh. we know that that's just a frame up of what they're about to say. Can I be honest with you? No,
Yeah.
lying. Keep lying. I can deal with that. Gentlemen, I wish
Good.
you a great, successful week as you lead people around the world. And I'm going to leave Phoebe the last comment, as he often has, to the people who are with us.
So, friends, thanks for listening and viewing us, as well as make sure you subscribe to our channel and reach out in case you need support, help on leadership in your organization or otherwise. And see you next time.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you. Bye.